Good
Good
morning
morning.
and welcome. My name is Eileen Wiviat. I am the senior minister of this congregation. Whether the Unitarian Church of Evanston is your spiritual home or you are seeking comfort and connection in uncertain times, we are grateful that you are with us. We are an inclusive and welcoming community seeking truth and love and striving to nurture the human spirit for a world made whole. We are guided by our principles and values, which remind us in every moment and through every challenge that each of us matters and that we are all connected through the vast and beautiful web of existence. Together, let us remember our oneness, our kinship with one another, and may we hold one another in heart and mind with tenderness and careful attention. There are many links to connection in the comments section below, including credits for the readings, to the virtual religious education videos that Kathy creates every week, for donations, and to be added to our email newsletter list. We're especially eager to hear from you if you're just discovering our community. We'd love for you to sign in on our guest form so that we can keep in touch with you. A few announcements. The all church Zoom meeting will continue on Wednesdays as it has throughout this year and almost year and a half. Wednesdays at 5:30. We'll send a reminder email in the early afternoon on Wednesday with the link. Our annual meeting will begin immediately after the service instead of coffee hour today. So voting members of the congregation will have received a Zoom link, an email this morning with the Zoom link to connect to that annual meeting. Non-voting members can click on the link in the service information below to watch the annual meeting if you would like to. There's interesting stuff going on. Community Renewal Society is calling on congregations and communities to push the city of Chicago to pass the Empowering Communities for Public Safety Ordinance. This is an ordinance that will transform police accountability. If you are a resident of Chicago and want to take part in actions to bring transformative police accountability to Chicago, please email me for details about how you can do that. And now I invite you to get your chalices ready, set a place for yourself and your family as we join in beloved community.
We open today with these words from Scott Taylor. We gather as a house of stories. As we learn of those who have gone before, the way in front of us becomes more clear. As we weave together the tales of who we are, our loneliness lessens and the web of our oneness is revealed. As we listen deeply in those times of tender trust, we descend into the longings and learnings, hopes and fears of the humanity we share. Beneath the wells from which we drink, there is a deeper well that feeds them all. Come, let us tell each other of our thirst. Let us drink from the stories that sustain us all. Worship. 8th principal team lights our chalice in northern Illinois on the traditional homelands of the Council of the Three Fires, the Odawa, Ojibwe, and Potawatomi nations. Many other tribes, such as the Miami, Menominee, Ho-Chunk, Sac, and Fox, also call this area home. We name these in honor and respect for the land, all the animals and plants that have lived on and through the land, and all people who have been and remain part of the earth. We name these as one small effort towards greater accountability and deeper relationship with our ancestors and descendants. Please join me in saying these words by the Reverend David Breeden. We tender this flame, opening the book, turning to a page yet to be written, opening a story yet to be told. May we fill this fresh page wisely. May we write a new story into being. May we together inscribe the page with hope.
Please join in saying the words of our covenant. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Sing out praises for the journey, pilgrims we who carry on, searchers in the soul's deep yearnings, like our forebears in their time. We seek out the Spirit's wholeness in the endless human quest. Look inside your souls, the kindling of the heart fire pilgrims new. Find the Spirit always restless, find it in each mind and heart. Touch and hold that ancient yearning, kindling for a new-found truth. Stand we now upon the threshold, facing futures yet unknown. Hearth behind us, wayside hostel, built by those who knew wild roads. Guard we ere their sacred embers, carried in our minds and hearts.
The story for all ages today is a true story. It is a story that I have told here perhaps early in my time with UCE, and it bears repeating. It is a story I hope can go to each of our children as it has gone to my own and my grandchildren. When my daughter, Sarah, was about 12 years old, we had the opportunity to go to Boston together. It was a wonderful opportunity for us to hang out and eat in cool restaurants and do things that we didn't get to do when we were forced to hang out with the boys, their brothers, Sarah's brothers. One day we went to the Boston Commons, which for those of you who have not been to Boston is a huge park in the middle of the city. And it is beautiful in so many ways. And in the middle of it, there is the swan boats, which are boats that look like swans. not surprisingly. That's why they're called swan boats. And we took a little ride. We pedaled them and made them go around the pond. And when we came back, we started off for the edge of the commons where there is a very busy street. And people often talk about the traffic in Boston, and it's true. It is busy traffic. And we came right to the edge of the park, and a car passed us going way too fast to be going on a city street, much less one in the middle of a busy intersection. And I was aware for just a moment of how precarious the situation was, because if I had been knocked over by that speeding car, my daughter would have been alone in a huge city. And so I said to her, Sarah, that car could have knocked me over. What would you have done if that had happened? And without a moment's hesitation, my daughter, who had had now at least 3 years of Unitarian Universalist Sunday school, turned to me and said, "Oh, Mom, that's easy. I would ask a policeman to call a Unitarian church, and there would be someone there to take care of me." In the moment, I was overwhelmed with gratitude that her understanding of herself as part of not only the community of our church, but also the community of all other Unitarian Universalist congregations, wherever she might be. As I think of parting from this congregation, I want you to know that we are one, that our children are a part of a larger family, and that at our best, there will always be someone, wherever there is a Unitarian Universalist congregation, to take care of you.
Thank you, Karen. It's wonderful to hear that story again and its important message. These are the joys and sorrows that have been submitted through the Google form found on our homepage on our website, which have been sent directly to me. Please know that you can do that anytime throughout the week, and we'll include those messages in our worship service. From Doug Erickson, a shout out to the 2021 garden swap held yesterday in the UCE parking lot. Spirited gardeners sharing plants, expertise, community. You have to see it to get the feeling. Thanks, UCE staff, for the support. It was a wonderful success. From Janelle Britton, I'm so grateful to all of you for your wonderful support of Michael and I as we go along this journey. Hopefully he will be home this week and we will start hospice. Prayers of healing and peace to you, Janelle and Michael. From Jordan Strieber, a joy. I was released from the hospital on Friday after 4 nights in the ICU for blood clots in my lungs. I am grateful to be home, grateful to be alive, and grateful to be a beloved member of a community where so many people reached out and stepped up to make sure that my cousin Kat and I had what we needed. I'm feeling much better, and I'm absolutely on the road to recovery. Sharing that joy with you, Jordan and Kat. And this shared anonymously, I am experiencing great stress in my family of origin. Old dysfunctional and abusive patterns have resurfaced. I refuse to be abused again, and then They gaslight me and blame all him on me. I've set boundaries to protect myself, but then I feel so alone. Catch 22. To the person who shared this sorrow and pain, you are held in this beloved community of care. We know that these are not the only joys and sorrows that are on our hearts, so we take a moment of quiet now to read to ourselves the joys and sorrows that are entered in the chat. And if you feel so moved, please say aloud in your home, wherever you are, the names of those who you are carrying on your heart, those who have experienced loss, those who are suffering, those who have died. And may those names, known and unknown to us, be carried on the winds to be held in this community that knows no walls. Together, we expand our celebrations and lessen the burden of our grief.
I invite you now to join me in the spirit of prayer and meditation with these words by the Reverend Lynn Cox. Spirit of life, who draws us together in a web of holy relationships, make your presence known with us and in us and among us. Remind us that we are not alone in history. Ignite with us the courage of the living tradition. Remind us that we are not alone in entering the future. Anchor us with patience and perseverance. Remind us that we are not alone in our times of grief and pain. Comfort us with your spirit, manifest in human hands and voices. Remind us that we are not alone in joy and wonder. Inspire us to honor and extend the beauty we find in this world. Open our hearts to all of our neighbors. Open our souls to a renewal of faith. Open our hands to join together in the work ahead. So be it. Blessed be. Amen.
When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we trust the wisdom in each of us, every color, every creed and kind, our heart is in a holy place. We are blessed with love and amazing grace when our heart is in a holy place. When we tell our story from deep inside and we listen with a loving mind, and we hear our voices in each other's words, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we share the silence of sacred space and the God of our heart stirs within, and we feel the power of each other's faith, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place.
UCE remains a vital part of the world and our community, and we practice the shared spiritual practice of generosity, giving of our blessings and our resources to our community. So this is the time of our service where we ask for an offering for our shared plate. Each month we share half of what we gather in our offering to a partner, a community partner that has been selected by our Social Justice Council. And just to put in a word, the applications for next year's social shared plate offering recipients is up, and we invite and encourage your suggestions. Today's offering is shared with UU Prison Ministry of Illinois, equipping UUs in Illinois to transform institutions and support people harmed by the prison industrial complex. You can text to give, send in a check, or give from our website. You can also send in a check. Please indicate in the memo line of your check if it is for the shared offering or whether it's for a pledge or capital campaign or some other form of giving. And I invite you to give as generously as you're able, and may what you give bring you joy. Our reading this morning is by Reverend Emily Gage, Minister of Faith Development at Unity Temple Unitarian Universalist Congregation in Oak Park. From a very young age, I was transported by stories to worlds far and near. I ate too many cookies with frog and toad, made footprints in the snow with Peter and a snowy day, spied on the neighbors with Harriet, listened to Pa's fiddle in the evening along with Laura Ingalls, laughed and cried with the great Gilly Hopkins, found out what happened next with Jean Fritz's Paul Revere, solved the mystery with Turtle in the Westing game, and so on and so on and so on. The list is endless. And all these people, these stories, both fictional and non-fictional, are part of who I am. Stories shape us in so many ways. When they resonate with our own experience, they tell us something about who we are. When they jolt us into a new perspective, they broaden our sense of the world. When they share where we have come from, they remind us that we are part of a larger narrative. The complexity of this is staggering. In some ways, it could be argued each one of us is a community or a collection of stories. Part of what we do is listen to one another's stories. We do this in the joys and sorrows portion of our worship service, in informal conversations at coffee hour or while our kids play. We witness shared celebrations of our stories, whether they be baby dedications or memorial services or other rites of passage. We create narratives of what could be in our shared faith and action gatherings and marches. Sometimes just sharing our story and having it be held by others is helpful. Sometimes hearing a story that sounds like yours but with a different ending can give you hope. Sometimes listening to someone whose perspective is totally different opens up new worlds and new understanding. In our religious community, we are shaped by the stories we encounter. In our religious community, we create a shared story of who we are and who we may become.
At the start of any given day, there is mystery available. There is a game waiting for an open heart to say yes. Here I am, I'll play. And if we're smart, we'll listen to the way. And all the misery that held us down, we'll let it fade. Let it be outshined by a simple spark of a life that's waiting to be made. It's waiting to be made. Of this day, what will you keep? What will you change? What will you see? What will you believe? What will you make of your dreams? Will you keep sleeping, or will you awaken and decide what you will make? Start of any given day, there is history and poetry. There is a play, but you're not in the audience. You are the start. So get out there and say what you made. What will you make of this day? What will you keep? What will you change? What will you see? What will you believe? What will you make of your dreams? Will you keep sleeping, or will you awaken and decide just what you will make of this day? What will you keep? What will you change? What will you see? And what will you believe? What will you make of your dreams? Will you keep sleeping, or will you awaken and decide what you will make?
Wonderful. Well, over the past several years, particularly since my retirement, I have become a consumer of audiobooks. They have accompanied me on long solo car rides and relieved the tedium of my seemingly endless attempts to maintain cleanliness in order in my household. I am drawn to mystery series that feature well-developed main characters whom I grow to admire and respect for their wisdom and integrity. Favorites being Inspector Gamache, created by Louise Penny, and Maisie Dobbs of the Jacqueline Winspear series. These companions have inspired me with their fallibility as well as their hard-earned wisdom woven carefully into stories that expose the complexities of human motivation and action. The characters in these stories are not villains and heroes. More often, they are regular folks whose personal stories have led them to behave in ways that bring unintended harm and sometimes redemptive benefit to others. These individual stories form the fabric of the larger story that these detectives seek to reveal in their work. More than holding a single individual accountable for a particular crime or result, both Maisie Dobbs and Inspector Gamache need even, to understand the human and social and cultural dynamics that play into the larger story in which a certain amount of unwelcome pain is inevitable. I think I'm drawn to these works of fiction because it is in some sense how I have come to understand my work as an interim minister. Ministerial transition is inevitable. There is no single cause or reason why ministers leave or even why they stay. Woven into the larger story of the Unitarian Church of Evanston are the stories of regular folks, ministers and lay people alike, whose personal stories have led to behavior that has evoked redemptive benefit and sometimes unintended harm to others. Your stories form the fabric of the larger story that I, as your interim minister, have sought to reveal in my work. More than holding a single individual accountable for a particular result, I have attempted to unearth and to understand the human and social and cultural dynamics that play into the larger story, in which a certain amount of unwelcome surprise and unwelcome pain are inevitable. The epilogue of each of the Maisie Dobbs books, she conducts what she calls a final accounting, during which she revisits all of the people and places that provided pieces of the so-called resolution to the mystery. So here, of course, is where my work and hers diverge. It would take another full year in your actual presence to revisit all of the stories and places that have informed my work here. And much of the mystery remains, which is good news, I think. Last week in a session with my spiritual director, I mentioned how ambiguous I was feeling about the outcome of this ministry. And he said, at the edge of ambiguity is mystery, and in mystery lies the depth. Pretty sure he was talking about a different kind of mystery than the ones in my favorite detective series. And I'm still pondering that thought, but I think he was talking about the mystery that cannot be solved, but only embraced for the offering of new possibilities, for greater understanding and deeper engagement. That is the kind of mystery that I hope to leave with you, as well as the kind that I can carry with me as our respective stories continue to unfold. And there is a need for a final accounting of sorts, something that you can refer to in the history of this time. And many of you as individuals and you as a collective have become part of my story and the story of our shared commitment to our Unitarian Universalist faith tradition as well as to the mission and future of UCE. In the weeks and months ahead, I will have occasion to tell my story of this time. The telling may vary, but the essence of it might go something like this. Once upon a time, there was a congregation sagging under the weight of years of unprocessed change and unaddressed disappointment. It was a congregation with a bold and brave history of high ideals and strong leaders, both professional and volunteer. For over a century, it was known for its music and religious education and the powerful preaching of its ministers and the involvement of its members in a variety of social justice causes. It had become a gathering place for curious seekers longing for a community grounded in liberal values, offering intellectual stimulation, religious education for children not limited to the traditional Christian teachings. Some had come seeking companionship, a place to hold life passages such as marriage and child dedication and memorial services. Some had come seeking a safe place to express their true gender identity and to openly love whomever they pleased. Each had come with their own story. Ministers had come and gone, joining their stories for a time and brief and extended, creating legacies of tradition, a flaming chalice, a precious statement of covenant, a magical fundraiser, an expectation of artistry and worship, a form of governance that promised to be a change for the better. All that and more had been woven into the fabric of this bold and brave history, and with every coming and going, there had been left dangling threads of disappointment, born of unmet expectations and unresolved conflict. Many born out of the lofty covenant which the covenant professed. Those sent to help rebalance the system, to tend to the dangling threads and make way for new beginnings, had been, for their own reasons, unable to complete the task. Hence, a congregation sagging under the weight of years of unprocessed change and unaddressed disappointment. It is hard to find good help these days, and it can be as hard to be unable to help as it is to not be helped. Now, let me pause here to say that there are no villains and heroes in this story. If you are looking for them, you have already met them. Everyone in this story are regular folks whose personal stories have led them to behave in ways that bring unintended harm and sometimes redemptive benefit to others. This is, for the moment, my story, and I'm sticking to it. So, because the rest of the story is about how this sagging congregation began through luck and pluck to begin to move toward the possibility of a fuller collective narrative. One spring day, in the last year when the privilege took everything for granted, there was a gathered circle of about 30 of the community elders and others of short tenure who had begun to be concerned about the growing weight and general heaviness around about. They had sought the guidance of those who are supposed to know how to dress such things, who in turn sent them the oracle from the frozen north, heretofore referred to simply as the oracle, who, in spite of Maisie Dobbs and Inspector Gamache, would seek to understand, not in spite of, but in the spirit of Maisie Dobbs and Inspector Gamache, would seek to understand the human and social and cultural dynamics that play into the larger story, in which a certain amount of unwelcome pain had become apparent. On that spring day, each person in the circle was invited to tell a story of what had drawn them together in the first place and why they had chosen to stay. These stories were powerful and revealed each teller's deep connection to one or more of the others in the circle. Then each person was asked to consider what gifts they brought to the community that held them in those relationships, and to light a candle as a symbol of this gift. Next, the oracle asked that they bring their flames together to light a single candle in a chalice as a symbol of their shared gifts, and to place their still lit candles on the table with the chalice. Please close your eyes, the oracle requested, and as the assembly rested in the darkness inside their heads, the oracle extinguished all but a few of the candles, which remained burning along with the flame in the chalice, the flame that held the light of all the others. The oracle, in a state of high anticipation, returned a candle to each of the assembly who were mostly still in the darkness of their heads. Wait, she gave them back the unlit candles? Yes, that's right. All but a small handful that had been left lit, which were also distributed at random throughout the circle. And she asked the assembled ones to open their eyes and behold their dampened flames, the glowing chalice, and the few candles that remained flickering in the circle. Now, she said, find a source of light in the room and rekindle your flame. One by one, the candles were relit. Every person in the room sought the light of another single individual. Light chosen for proximity, light offered by a special or trusted other, light returned as an obligation, light accepted. Not a single person sought the light of the combined flame. Now, the oracle might have, considering the highly relational nature of the earlier stories, predicted that the ritual would unfold thus, but she did not. She did express her observation about how institutions based primarily on personal stories and individual relationships instead of a commitment to a larger whole or mission often lack resilience in the face of change. As compelling as it is to reach out to other individuals when our flames flicker and dim, there are times when those sources are disappointingly committed elsewhere. When we tend to the shared flame of community or shared mission, it holds light for us all. And then the oracle took her leave, believing that she had fulfilled the assignment for which she had been sent, only to be summoned back to pick up the thread and follow it through. And this is the foundational story that has guided my work with you, the beloved community of UCE, live and on Zoom, in email, in workshops and meetings and retreats. For nearly 2 years now, every effort we have made together has been to tease out and add value to the parts that feed your common flame, to point you toward and call you back to the life-giving and sustaining whole that has and will withstand the human and social and cultural dynamics that play into the larger story, in which a certain amount of unwelcome pain is inevitable. I am not, despite previous projections, an oracle, but more accurately one of those regular folks whose personal stories has led them to behave in ways that bring redemptive benefits sometimes, and sometimes unintended harm to others. I will leave my own dangling threads that will, for better and for worse, get snipped off or woven into the next chapters of other stories. All that we have begun together will remain with you in your own capable hands and those of my blessed colleagues. This has been one version of your story. It is a true story, and it is not the only story. It is not a story even that has an end in sight. To the extent that you might claim it as a story of hurts healed and lessons learned, the story of individual stories coming together to shape a common narrative around living in covenant with one another and nurturing the human spirit
for a world made whole. It will be a story of endless possibility. In the words of Dag Hammarskjöld, for all that has been, thanks. To all that shall be, yes. As we extinguish the chalice flame, please join in saying these words. Though the flame is extinguished, we carry with us the warmth of community, the light of truth, and the fire of commitment until we are together again.
For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift which we are called to use to build a common good. shores of rest and love, we come with praise and thanks for all that is our life. For sorrow we must bear, for failure, pain, and loss, for each new thing we learn, for fearful hours that pass, we come with praise and thanks for all that is our life.
Our benediction is by Reverend Michael A. Schuler, Minister Emeritus of First Unitarian Society of Madison, Wisconsin. We have reached the end of this time for the gathering of memory and for letting the imagination play with future possibilities. We have enjoyed magic moments and edified each other. Shall it be concluded then? Or will this adventure now commenced continue? Our separate paths converging, meeting, merging in the unending quest for love more perfect. The joyous struggle for meaning more sufficient and life more abundant. Is this ending to be an ending or merely prelude to new, more glorious beginnings? I pose the question, in your hearts lies the answer.